So, welcome everybody to the Princeton Adult School. And today we're going to do a presentation, Social Media Strategy for Authors. And so I understand from at least a few of you that are on early, you are authors, and then some are actively published already or in the process, which is all terrific. And want to let you know, this is really an introduction. This is going to be more of a why to use social media strategy. We're only going to touch a little bit on how to begin to implement and formulate a strategy. I'm going to highlight some of the social media sites that are going to be relevant for using, potentially relevant for you for promoting, but we're not going to deep dive into how to manipulate and use each individual platform. We just don't have the time today to do all that, but really want to give you a bit more of an introduction, let you know what some of the tools are that are out there, and then you can move along on your own to find or use the one that you feel will be just right for you. And so as part of our introduction, so to tell you a little about me, I think one or two of you said you have met me before, so very nice to meet you or virtually meet you again. I'm an information technology consultant, and so that's me. My company is Princeton Technology Advisors. That's my company logo right there on the right. I'm based locally. I live in West Windsor, but work in the whole general area here. I'm a generalist. I do a lot of website maintenance and support, do new websites and redesigns. For other clients, I'll do some managing of services. So if they need virus protection, tech support, I generally don't do break fix if you have a broken computer, but really more corporate or company. My clients tend to be small business and not-for-profit organizations, so smaller organizations. Also do technology projects and project management. I have a couple of clients that I do those for as well. And what we'll also touch on a little bit today is search engine optimization, something that I've added to this program. It's at the end. So we'll be talking about that also. And while I'm not a published author, I do blog about technology topics, and I generally do so for a non-technical audience. So I really talk to the level of the layperson. And so some of my posts are all easy to understand. Most of them are, I believe. So let's first talk about what is social media. And I looked around quite a bit for a good definition that I can share with you. And I found this one a while ago that I really thought was spot on. And so I'll just read it as you do, but it's the collective of online communication channels dedicated to community-based input, interaction, and content sharing and collaboration. And when I had read this one, I thought this was spot on. At least this really resonated with me. And maybe it's beginning to resonate with you as well. And we're going to talk about communications channels. But then when I started to put this presentation together, and I've been doing this one for about 3 years now, I realized one thing is it's really not very simple to understand. You really have to read it a bunch of times. And I boiled it down a little bit for all of us. And really what social media is, it's using the internet to share information among other people. And that's really all social media is. It's using the internet, being online to share information. And you want to get information out about, in your case, you as an author or the writings that you have, the genres that you're in, you want to get that information out. So these are among the communication channels. And this diagram, I like it a lot. I kind of subscribe to it. It's called Spoke and Hub. And by Spoke and Hub, in the hub, in the center, like a hub of a wheel on a car or a bicycle, that's your website. We'll be talking about using a website a little later. But there are all these other things that are in social media. Sometimes or I should even say online, if social media is a scary term. And these are a bit more specialized in how you use them. When you use emailing, when you use any public relation tools, when you use pay-per-click, search engine optimization, these tend to be more narrowly focused when you use them. But your website will always talk about everything about you, about your writings, about your genre, the things that you want to present. You might send an email, you might write a post on a blog of a specific topic, but you can always come back to the center, to your hub, from any of those connecting spokes, and it will talk about the topic plus anything else of interest that you want to present. So I think that this is a valuable strategy or organization, and when I consult with my clients, this is what I like to have them work on. Have one or more other channels in addition to the website. And if you're new to using social media, one channel is enough to get started. We'll get into that a bit more. And really, why is online presence so important? Well, your readers expect you to be there. If you want to be found, if you need to be found, you need to be there. It's not much different than years ago when companies or organizations might be in the yellow pages. People are searching for products and information online all the time. And you know this to be true because you're doing it. Whenever you have an interest, a need, and you're looking for something, you're doing a little research maybe, you're going to maybe get out Google or Bing and do a search. And you will find websites in those search results. Hopefully they'll give you a lot of good information. Professional sites also give your brand credibility. Really a website, social media presence, it's really necessary right now. You need to be out there. And there are some opinions that are, gee, if you don't really have a website, how professional are you? How serious are you about promoting just what it is you wish to promote? So it really becomes important for your professional experience, your professional brand. Also, it allows you to express yourself and demonstrate the things that are important to you professionally, your interests, your knowledge, your expertise. And it becomes an easy way for you to express this, and people can begin to learn and find out more about you and what you're writing about. So online presence is certainly important for your online presence that way. If you're not yet known, this is where people find out about you. You may have some very interesting information to present, and you want to make sure that people begin to learn and find out about you. And this is a way that you can be found, by being found online. And really, if you're not found online, you're irrelevant. And I don't mean to insult you in any way, but if someone is searching for someone like you, if someone is searching for a genre like yours, if someone is searching for interests in the interests that you like to write about, and you're not found in those searches, then they're not able to contact or find you or communicate with you. So that's why this is in bold red. It's in bold red because this is very important. So it's not that you're irrelevant per se, but functionally you're not being found and functionally irrelevant. So it's good to be found. It's important to be found online. So let's talk a little bit more about how to benefit from social media, from using social media. What you need to do to benefit from social media, you really kind of need to have a strategy for yourself. How are you going to use it? What you're trying to achieve. Don't try just to pick one website that may be out there just because you want to be online, but think a little bit about your goals and what you're trying to get out of it. We'll be talking more about that. And social media strategy certainly is iterative, because what you'll do is you'll try things, you'll work through them, you'll find the platforms that are right for you, you'll begin to implement, and then you'll try and figure out, is it working? And then if it's working not as well as you'd like, you'd adjust. The adjustments could be changing what you're writing, the tools that you're using, maybe you have to adjust your goals. So it becomes a bit iterative. This circle really isn't forever. Mostly it's when you're starting out, and probably starting out for the first few months. So, but realize that there's a little bit of a circular strategy until you get to the point that you're really very comfortable that it's working for you. So for setting goals, it's very important that you know your audience. Really, who do you want to engage with? If you don't know who your audience is, then you don't know how to set your message properly. And you don't know how to get the information out to pique their interests. So it does become very important that you can figure out who is your audience and who do I want to connect with, who do I want to resonate with. And then think about what type of content will you post. In some cases, you might post part of a book or maybe a chapter. Maybe you'll post other stories or anecdotes that support what you're normally writing in your more formal publications. So you have to decide how to generate that interest and that buzz. Then think about how often you're going to start promoting and posting on social media and online. Sometimes you can do it very regularly, sometimes less frequently. I've taken a little break from blogging, but I was typically doing it once a month, newsletter style. I found that worked for me. I have one client of mine. She is a life coach, not quite like a therapist, but she's a life coach. And she posts on her blog 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. And each of those days are a little bit of a theme. Motivational Monday. So there's always something motivational she writes about. And then she has a Friday quote that she finds and then writes about. So that's what she likes to do. Also, be aware that the different social media tools, the different social media strategies and channels, they all have kind of a different purpose. And we'll be talking about a number of them, but you may find that you use them a little differently, especially when you start using more than one, but ultimately they complement each other. And so that becomes part of your strategy. You may start with just one tool, one of the social media websites, or just more broadly on your own website. And then you'll add another one, and you'll find ways to promote or complement what your message is ultimately getting out. And you also have to decide what you want to have as a result of your activity. And that really can't be something very big, because we know it's going to be very, very big. We want to sell more books, or we want to get more visibility. But what you do want to do is kind of keep your goals a little bit more manageable. You may have certain channels or certain social media sites are going to be for targeting specific audiences. Maybe you're looking based on age group or by professional interests. So you really want to get a little bit more targeted and understand what those goals are. And then later we'll talk about measuring and monitoring. If you're not quite happy or you haven't reached the exact level in any of those goals, you can tweak and modify the content to hopefully improve that a bit. We'll be getting into that in a moment. So first is, who's your audience? So I said before, it's very important that you know who your audience is. And the audience is basically who you want to reach with social media. It's not necessarily everybody. Most of us can't have a global audience quite that way, or a national audience, but we want to understand who our target audience is, and that's who we want to reach by being online. And what we need to understand is how to communicate with that audience. For instance, if it's age group based, an older audience might be more comfortable using a larger screen like a desktop or a laptop computer. A younger audience might go from a laptop to a tablet, or maybe even to a phone. And so you're going to want to make sure that when you're presenting to an audience age-wise, that you use the proper technology. If it's by different industry, then you're going to want to look for platforms that are industry specific. And so you want to make sure you begin to understand your audience, your target audience. Now, certainly if your audience is consumer-based, then the kind of writing you're going to do to get their attention is going to be more layperson oriented. You may not use technical terms or industry terms, because to the average person, the average non-business or non-industry person may not understand that. And so, for instance, I mentioned before, when I blog about tech topics, I tend to use less technical terms and talk more in business or day-to-day terms. It just seems to resonate with my audience better. But of course, if your audience is going to be more industry-based, you can use the industry terms or the technical terms or the jargon. As a matter of fact, it's expected, because if you're trying to reach an audience that has a specific knowledge or expertise, they want you to talk to them at that level. They want you to communicate with them at that level. If not, they may think you're too basic and that they are looking for something else. So there's lots of things to look at in terms of audience, but you want to make sure you understand who your audience is. So who's the author's audience? Of course, if we were in a room together, you might raise your hand and you might even suggest, well, the author's audience clearly is the reader. And so, sure, that's one of the audiences that you'd like to reach. And by the way, this I got from an author who's a New York Times bestseller, Kevin Kruse. I don't know him otherwise, but it was an article I read not long ago, and I thought this was a good overview for who the author's audience. But when you think about the personal reader, your network of fans, maybe even friends and family, people you know a bit more closely, or individuals that you may not know. There are a lot of people that you got to connect with in order to sell a lot of books or to get a lot of attention to your articles and your postings. So this is really a one to very many relationship. And when you're not yet known, this is a little bit more challenging. Of course, if you've published for a while and you begin to have a following, this is a little bit easier. So then start thinking about who else might the author's audience, who else might your audience be? Well, one could be the bookstore browser. These are people that you don't necessarily know, but might see your book when they stumble across it, either in a bookstore or when they're browsing online, right? The Barnes & Noble website is a bookseller. Amazon, there are a few others as well. Amazon, of course, sells everything. We're going to be talking about Amazon in a few slides. So you need to be able to create content that is going to help you be found to people who don't quite know you or don't know you well enough yet. And so you're going to want to appeal to people, of course, that you don't know. Also, there are people that buy for others. Now, of course, there are people that are buying for gifts for friends, but then there are also professors. Maybe the book that you're writing, maybe the article that you're publishing is one that can be used in an academic setting. Maybe it can be used in a business setting. And so you're going to want to be able to find and connect with executives, because these tend to be people that buy not just for one or two, but for groups. For one company I worked with a number of years ago, one of the managers was very fond of buying books for the staff. And I have 2 books. I didn't work for him directly. I worked on a project with him. I was in the IT department. He was in a business department. And he had bought books for the 7 or 8 of us that were on the project and asked us to read through it because he liked the concepts and ideas there. So there's someone who buys for a lot of people. And then the next step becomes what I call the retail buyer. And that's not the individual who's just buying for themselves, but someone who buys for bookstores or buys for book clubs, someone who buys for inventory. So instead of selling just one book to one person, you might be selling a box full of books and get some traction that way. And the same for publishing articles and documentation and guides as well. So you'd want to be able to draw the attention to the retail buyer. And your way you communicate with these different audiences may be slightly different. You're going to have to figure that out based on how well you know your audience. And then, of course, ideally, you'd love to get the attention of the media, people that do reviews of books and then themselves have a big audience. And so this is another type of audience that is typical for the author. So don't only think about that your audience is the reader, the individuals, but it could be someone who's buying or influencing the individuals, buying for them or influencing them. And when you start promoting information online, when you start using social media to promote information, for most people, social media is really about how you can help me. We have a very selfish attitude about it. And so if you're publishing on your own and you're promoting on your own and think about from this perspective how you can help me, it's a little bit selfish and it's hard to get others to participate and to buy in to just what it is you're trying to promote and advertise. Really what social media should be about is how I can help you, how you can help others. Think about the people that you're most happy to help. They're usually people that have helped you in the past. So in this case, you're going to be the helper. So the type of information that you may put out there is really going to be something to think about how you benefit those people. So really think about social media from that perspective. And really you want to provide value, you want to provide quality over quantity. So the friends that I have, or the clients that I have that publish often, and I've talked with them about this, what they're really trying to do is send message and give advice. Then they're trying to give good quality information. They're just not promoting often to be seen. So it's really important to give good information. And then ultimately, when you start promoting on social media sites or on your blog or any place, you're going to want to direct viewers to come back to your website, because your website can talk a lot more about the things that are important to you and your publication and your genre and how you're participating. And we're going to talk more about that. But remember that picture that we saw a little bit earlier, the hub and spoke. So the website is in the center, and when you're using some of the other sites that are around the hub, you want to bring people back to the hub. And so that's what this is, direct your viewers back to the website. This theme will come up a couple times through this presentation today. So everyone wants to know, what's the most effective platform? Well, ultimately it depends, but this was a chart that I found. If you're writing and promoting B2B or business to business, this is showing that LinkedIn really is the #1 platform for B2B. I've tried to look for a more current platform. A more current diagram. This one is 4 years old. I would say, give or take the numbers a few percentage points, this is probably very much still in line. I might take Google Plus off. It's a platform Google really no longer supports. And SlideShare, not quite used as much as it used to be. LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, all are going to be great for business people. And if you haven't yet been on YouTube, it would be a great way to begin also to get some traction. I've started my YouTube channel and put a few videos out there as well. So for promoting B2B, LinkedIn really is the #1 platform. And I'll show you some statistics a little bit later on that. But if you're B2C, if you're promoting to consumers, typical non-business people, Facebook really is the #1 place to be. But notice YouTube and Twitter are still up there. And the reason why is a lot of times the end users, the consumers, are people that just like to have fun on Twitter and just like to have fun on YouTube. Actually, YouTube is a terrific platform for watching videos for free. So you certainly can put your content out there. When you create, if you have not done so, a YouTube channel, you're actually putting keywords and other things in it so that it matches up, hopefully, to the search terms that people may use, and your videos can be seen in YouTube. Not much different than if someone was Googling you. And actually, as a point of coincidence, YouTube is actually owned by Google. But notice LinkedIn is a little further down. LinkedIn is primarily a business users platform, so you don't usually see that for the kind of consumer or the non-business end user. So social media sites for authors. And I guess this is a good chunk of what you'd be interested in learning about, and that's why you're here today. Amazon. Amazon.com started in 1994 as a bookseller. And that was their big promotion. And they were delivering books quickly and for sale, very inexpensively. But they also have publishing services. Now, if you don't do the screenshots for this and you don't capture the link properly, don't worry. Remember, you can download these slides a little later. It's already on my website, and I'll show you the link a little later also. And in the download later, the link is active. So the next couple slides that I show you will all have links to these other platforms and websites. Amazon has these 3 self-publishing platforms. So if you're going to go purely on your own and not work with a publishing consultant or a publisher, these may be options for you. You can publish to Kindle. This is actually a free program, and so it does help you promote and publish your books as ebooks. And when you publish to Kindle, you're really publishing in the Amazon-only format, so you're not really getting onto other websites as well, but it's a great way to begin to get your publications out into the public. They also have Publish to Print, and this is pretty much on demand. You can publish and create and distribute your book through print media, and they do offer a worldwide distribution platform for doing that. And also what they have is what's called Publish to Audio, or their audiobook creation exchange. And this is a great way for publishing your book as an audio book. So, now, one thing I would caution about working with Amazon as a publishing service, now you can get your ISBN, your unique book identifier number. You can get that through Amazon. They're one of the resellers or services for that. What I've heard, and I haven't experienced this, but from the publishing consultants I've talked to, if you do acquire your ISBN, the number from Amazon, other book companies, booksellers, tend not to like to sell books from an Amazon ISBN. So certainly consider getting your ISBN independent from Amazon. Amazon will sell books through this and service through this service anyway, but even if it's the ISBN is not theirs. So use BookBaby or one of the other websites or a publishing consultant to get that ISBN. Amazon makes it easy, but ultimately may be limiting for you. So just be a little bit aware. Okay. Amazon also has a service called Author Central, another service by Amazon. And what you do is you're basically creating your own web page on Amazon, on their website. You may have seen these before. If you don't have this yourself, you may have seen this before when you see books that are published and sold on Amazon, and then there's a link for the author's name, and that'll open up the information about the author. So it's kind of your own Amazon homepage, and you could put your biography, you could put your photo, you can do some posting there, video, all sorts of information. So if you have no other website at all, you certainly can use Amazon. Personally, I'm not a fan of using this as your only website. I think you get a lot more traction and value to building your own website and other social media sites. But I think also the value is to be in lots of places, not just on one place. It really helps for being found. But also you can track your sales on Amazon. There's all sorts of sales statistics that are available, so it becomes your kind of sales dashboard and other information that they provide for you. And plus, it is a very large selling site. And they also have staff that they provide to help you through the process. So they'll answer your questions and solve the problems, help you solve problems that you have. All the support is available through email, and I believe they still offer phone support. More and more, the very large organizations are changing their phone support model, but I believe they're still offering for Author Central phone support, which for a lot of us is just a lot easier. Another is a company called Audible, which is actually now an Amazon company, has been for a little while. And Audible becomes a nice way of promoting spoken audio entertainment. So if you're going to have a spoken book or other media that you're selling and services that you're going to sell through audio entertainment, this is a great platform for that. And so what Audible basically does is they sell digital books. It could be TV programs, so video, it could be audio versions of magazines, other documentation. So it can be a nice platform to use for that. You do publish and sell through Amazon.com. They do have that link, of course. So you do get a lot of support from Amazon because Audible is an Amazon company. It is free for 30 days, but you can publish up to 3 titles each month at $14.95. So I did check all these pricing actually earlier today, so these are all current pricing. So you could try it for 30 days, see if it's of value to you, if you want to use this, or you may get interest in it, but you'll come back to it later, and that's fine as well. Some of the other sites, Goodreads. Hopefully as an author, you've heard about Goodreads. What's nice, well, it is owned by Amazon. Amazon more and more is buying more of the space within their service area. They have over 55 million book lovers. Then that's as of Goodreads as of just a few years ago. But their mission, and this is what they have on their website, they want to help people find and share the books they love. Goodreads is completely free to use. It's completely free to participate. You create kind of your personal bookshelves. It's kind of your personal list. You also can rate books. You can review books. You can see what other people are reading. You can recommend. You can get suggestions. So it might be a nice place to participate, certainly, for the information and the books that you're publishing and what you're writing about as well. You can also promote, get a little bit more attention. This is not much different than boosting a post on Facebook or using a Google ad. This is pay-per-click, so this is a fee. to use these services. So if you're going to upload your content and then you want to get a little bit of promotion for it, you'll be paying. I don't have the pricing for that, but you could take a look at that also. But it's a good way to get a little bit of advertising within Goodreads. Another social media site, this is called Issue. Issue is, they say, connecting content to people. Another website for publishing content and hopefully getting people to read it. It's a digital publishing platform. They don't typically promote for books per se, but there's no reason why you can't publish on here. Or maybe what you'll do is publish your first chapter to get a little bit of buzz and direct people to buy your book or direct them to your website or to other social media platforms. But they tend to have digitized versions of magazines, catalogs, DIY guides, all sorts of information that they make available. They give you publishing tools, so you can get your content online on their site quite easily. It's actually completely free to get started with, and completely free for uploading. They used to have a limit on their uploading. They've now made it unlimited. But when you have the free account, it comes with ads. So you'll see pop-ups all the time. You've probably seen that on other websites as well. When you start paying for it and have 3 or 4 different plans, you get many more features, many more opportunities to be more creative. You can have multiple users on your account. I think not the $19 plan, but the $40 plan, you can have multiple users on your account. So if you're working maybe as a publisher on behalf of someone, or if there's 2 or 3 of you co-writing and you want to all be on the same account. And also, eventually it gets rid of the ads as well. So the experience is a lot nicer for some people not having the ads. But you can get started completely with free. It does not have a 30-day time limit the way some of the other sites do. Scribed, another website, another social media site for promoting and getting found as an author. You have these reading subscriptions that you can have. They're available all the time. They're used across many devices, which becomes very helpful. You kind of create a digital library. They have a catalog of over 500,000, 500,000 audio books and print books that you can review and read. The members tend to be really, they promote a very wide and diverse group of authors and publishers and readers, lots of different categories. And you can publish documents. Up to 100 megabytes. So they do have limits, I believe that's still in place. But here is their pricing. There's unlimited audio books, unlimited magazines, documents, unlimited books. It's $10 a month. They used to have, for $10 a month, it used to be, they limited the content. It was limited to how much you can upload and download. So now it's unlimited, and it's $10 a month. And you can try it for 30 days for free. See if this is worthwhile for you. I can't tell you if any of these sites are right or wrong for you. You really have to do that investigation for yourself. This is, again, more to introduce you to what is available for you to be able to find and promote online. And what about some of the big ones? Facebook. Facebook is the largest social media site on the planet. As of the end of last year, 2.5 billion users. Basically, slightly more than a quarter of everybody on the planet has a Facebook account. According to CBS News from not long ago, 65% of US residents have a Facebook account. It's really great for reaching a consumer audience. Now, a corporate audience is using it more and more, but they're actually using it themselves to reach the consumer audience. Facebook started out really very much as a non-business sort of platform. It became very friendly for friends and family members to share a lot of information about each other. So it is mostly still a consumer audience type of a product. So if you're gonna wanna reach out to a consumer audience and a non-business audience, this may be a great platform for you to do some posting and writing as well. LinkedIn, I mentioned it before, currently has over 660 million users. This is the #1 website for a business audience. Now, LinkedIn tends not to have a lot of pictures and things that a Facebook would have. Matter of fact, really, there's only one place to put a picture, which is your headshot. But they have made it more and more flexible to post attachments and other files to your profile. You can do a lot of posting. They also have a lot of groups that, that you can join, and you can be in contact with people of specific groups. Some of the groups are quite large. Being an IT and business person, I'm involved with a project managers group that has over 800,000 members. So if I posted once to that group, it can reach up to 800,000 people quite quickly. So LinkedIn is a terrific platform when your audience is more business focused. And Twitter. Twitter, you tend to only write a little bit in Twitter. You write 240 characters right now. And but you do inform, it's typically to inform people of upcoming events, recent accomplishments. You could talk about a new publication that you have, what's going on with you, interests. All these websites, you tend to develop followers and connections a bit organically. Twitter has 330 million users. They had a bit more for a while, but Twitter and a couple of the social media sites were very strong with cutting back some of the users that they thought and felt were fake accounts. But if you're really not sure about the effectiveness of Twitter, a lot of people are not quite sure how effective Twitter is. All you have to do is ask the 2016 presidential candidates their opinion of using Twitter. Of course, President Trump uses it as a means for communication as well. It's not a political commentary I'm making, but even if you're not on Twitter, I'm sure you're hearing about the president's tweets because they get picked up by other sources, and then they get published through those other sources, even your local news. And that's very common with social media. Once you start getting a bit of an audience, people pick up the messaging and forward it to other people. And then their followers and their connected also start to read it as well. So there becomes one of those logarithmic increases by getting found on these social media sites. Blogging, this is something I like to do. Blogging is a little bit different. It's a web page, or it could be a website. So if you have a website already, you can put a blog page, and you get to write these, I think they're short articles typically, and they're called posts. And so that's what a blog is. It's these posts. They tend not to be very long. I would say the equivalent of a page is usually typical. So that might be 500, 600, 700 words. You tend not to have anything very new or inventive, but really I like to use it as a cross promotion or a way to get some buzz. You can write about your opinion. Doesn't have to be something new. It could be snippets of your book. I did work with one client who is an author, and she was using it to publish snippets of her book and then writing additional commentary. That's what she chose to do. You can blog or post on your own website, which I think is a terrific idea to do when you're ready to do so. Or you can find other websites within an industry or genre or an area of interest. A lot of times people that blog do like to get and curate content from others. So you might have a connection with some others, and that would be helpful as well. It does demonstrate your expertise, things that you're passionate about, things that you're interested about, and it's another way to be found online. Now, if you notice, we're talking about lots of different platforms, and so over time, hopefully you can begin to develop a comfort with using a few of these different tools, and you can be found in multiple places. We're going to talk more about that at the end with search engine optimization, but you want to be in multiple places. Oh, good. So here's our first intermission. I'm going to open up. Can I open it? Good. Open up our faces again. There doesn't look like there's any chats. Let's see. Rodney wrote, you can have a Facebook author page. Absolutely true, for free. Not much different than a Facebook business page. And you can have an author page on Goodreads. That I did not know. Good, for thank you for sharing. So I will now know to add that the next time I do that in this as well. But so just curious, any questions with what we've talked about so far? Just chime in as you'd like. This is the electronic equivalent of raising your hand, I suppose.
How long is the break? I'm sorry, intermission?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to go grab a sandwich, that's okay. But yeah, This is the time for Q&A.
Okay,
we have more slides, yep.
I'm kind of at the learning, observing stage, so I don't have a whole lot of questions. But yeah, I'll take a little break. Thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
no worries.
2 minutes, okay.
Yeah, this will just be a minute or two and see how many questions that we get. If we had the opportunity to be at the high school for this class, I think we would be raising our hands and asking questions through the program. And what I thought was, rather than just wait until the end of the entire presentation, just kind of break it up a little bit. And so
Sure.
that's why I offered this. Looks like a couple people actually stepped away. So
Yes.
I'm not going to sing. I just wouldn't do that to you, but we'll wait until people come on back.
I'll be.
Are you starting to feel a little overwhelmed, maybe? Is this a lot of stuff?
I don't think it's overwhelming. I think what's overwhelming is the idea that how do you even get noticed when everyone is on Facebook, everyone is on YouTube? I mean, unless you actually pay for ads.
Well, paying for ads expedites it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk a little bit later about search engine optimization. It's a concept that is really a bit technical. We're not going to dive too deep into it, but it's a concept that can be used anywhere, not just on your website, but any place that you write. Because what you want is you want to be found when people are searching for someone like you.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to be found when they search for you. All they have to
Right.
do is put in your name, Carol, and you'll pop up, assuming you got anything out on social media. You put my name in, I've got plenty of content, so you can find me quite easy. But you want to be found when they're searching for someone like you. And so it really is, it's really from a perspective of volume and consistency and being active regularly, because what this tells Google and Bing and the search engines is you're relevant when the information that's about you is relevant to the searches that are being put in. But you're right, we're going to talk about search engine optimization will hopefully to be found. We're not really getting in this program into Google Ads. If you've got specific questions, I'm happy to talk about that. It is a service that I do offer. It used to be called Google AdWords, similar to Facebook posting, where you're basically, it's called pay-per-click. You're paying for the privilege of when someone finds you in a listing to then be directed to your web page or your post and whatnot. That'll get you a little faster to be found. But a lot of this is organic. It does take a little bit of time, and the more active you can be, the shorter that timeline can be, as long as you're effective. We'll be talking in a moment about, what is your message? What is the type of content that you may put out there? And even if you're on, let's say, this could be a little overwhelming, all these websites, even if you have a website and 2 other social media sites, the theme of your message really needs to be the same across all the places, because Google will then begin to understand the relevancy and the connection of where you're found in different places. And Google likes that. Google likes to see that you're active and you're in multiple places. Oh, excuse me, just drink a water. And we'll just wait. So yeah, it looks like, I remember the days when I was young, even movies had a real intermission.
Yeah.
Now you just put it on pause and you go to the kitchen or the restroom, but movies don't have intermission.
Plays still do.
Yeah, that's true, right? Between acts, they will. That's true. Yep. And in the old days with movies, one of the reasons why they had an intermission was not just for the courtesy to the viewers, but sometimes they had to change the reel. The movie might be on multiple reels. So it gave them a way to easily change the reel and not worry about if the timing of the ending one and starting another was smoothly or not. They just started another reel.
Yeah, it was practical. Have you ever done websites for musicians?
Yeah, it's funny you say so. Yes, a couple. My mother is it her second career, her third career? She's kind of semi-retired in her early 80s, has become a jazz group producer.
Really?
And so
Yeah.
she's always been a fan of jazz and goes to clubs and met people. And so she has assembled a group of musicians who are sidemen, people who play with other big names. And she's trying to promote and put on concerts with this collaboration of sidemen. But yeah, why do you ask?
Well, my husband and I are both jazz musicians. I'm a singer and he's a trumpet player. I'd love to get your mother's website, but when I have a website that I'm not happy with, eventually I'd like to combine my book with a music website.
Okay.
But I would love to just check out your mother's website. I mean, that'd
Yeah,
be
right
great.
now she has pretty much a landing page style of website. Won't go into the reasons why, but she just wanted it more like a business card. So your husband, you said, is a trumpeter?
Yes,
Okay.
we just performed. We performed at Forrestal Center and
Okay.
Oak Creek Grill. We've done a lot. Yeah, we just put out a new CD last year of Mardi Gras type music, New
Oh, no
Orleans.
kidding.
Yeah.
You mean like New Orleans jazz?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that stuff.
And it's a lot of it's original material. And
Hmm.
then, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I may become one of your fans. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm kind of funny. I like Pink Floyd and Dixieland. Go figure.
that's cool. Well, I like
I'm
blues,
wondering.
but I can. What should I go in that little bubble thing and give you
Uh,
his?
yeah, you could do that, or we could also just connect offline after this.
Okay.
I'll have my slide, and you could just connect. Did you know, or maybe your husband, Leslie Ford of the Leslie Ford Group, jazz
No,
trumpeter? Oh, okay.
I mean maybe he does. I'll write it down.
Yeah. Sadly, he passed a couple of years ago, but someone that I knew, um, he played jazz trumpet.
Cool. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And
Let's connect afterwards.
sure.
That would be great.
Mhm. So yeah, so on my mother's website, we also put she did, not this past year, the year before, they did a New Year's Eve show. And she's had a hard time getting venues, because she's not a known quantity herself or entity herself. And I've tried to make a couple of connections who, it's been hard for her. She doesn't really have an agent, but she's trying to connect with people. So I think she would love to talk with you as well, to see
Great.
if you have connections where they may be able to present. But what was
Yeah.
nice was the venue, it was on Long Island, Mercy College on Long Island. They recorded the whole event. And uh, we took snippets of the show, basically each of the musicians, not just playing a solo. The style of the show that they did then was a musician would come up center stage, tell a little bit of the story. And these are people that one played with Buddy Rich, and one played in the Tonight Show band, Sinatra, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow. I'd like to see that.
she just got as a singer. I forget it's Mel Torme's son.
Uh-huh.
What's March Torme? Oh, I'm awful with names. I didn't have the opportunity to meet him. Actually, I met Mel Torme when I went to
Oh,
see him years ago, which was good fun.
yeah. He was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And what was his wife's name?
Excuse me?
What was his wife's name?
Mel Torme's wife?
Yeah.
Mrs. Torme? I don't
Now,
know. Yeah.
Edie something?
I don't know. Um, Ordinarily, I would break and do a Google search, but if I do that, it'll interrupt the screen. You're welcome to do so if you can.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, but off the cuff, I don't remember. Yeah, I'd gone to see Mel Torme twice in small clubs in Manhattan a number of years ago, and yeah, they were fun shows.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him.
Yeah. Okay, are we all back on? I think we all are. Hopefully. I'm going to have to assume we are because we've been a few minutes now. So just like the intermission in the movies, what we're going to do is open the curtain. So if you remember, I talked about the spoken hub, where the hub was the center and the website. And I do some presentations that are, 90 minutes or so only about websites. We're just not going to get that deep dive. But I wanted to talk about a little bit some of the best practices about how you might consider constructing a website, things that you have to think about as you construct a website, and certainly keeping your audience in mind. Just close. There we go. So you want to make sure it's what's called responsive, right? A responsive design. And a responsive design is one that is smart enough to reformulate itself, reposition itself, deliver the pages, regardless of the size of the screen. Now, if you look at the little image there, the big screen in the center, well, that's the typical PC screen, and it's typically wider than it is tall. But then the tablets and certainly the smartphones, they're very small, but they're taller and they're not as wide. And what happens in the responsive is it knows what type of device it's on, and it will adjust itself to be fitting very nicely in the smaller sizes without turning it into an eye chart. You shouldn't be paying extra for responsive design. It's really the way web design is designed now. It's kind of all built in. But just be aware, you want to be on a platform that will, or use a template that will deliver a responsive design. So the layout adapts automatically from desktop to tablet to mobile to tablet to desktop. It's just smart enough to do that. And it's really the most flexible way now to design a website. You just need to be available for everybody. And specifically, 20% of millennials, and right now those are the people aged 22 to 37, don't even have a desktop or a laptop. So if you are not a millennial, and I'm a baby boomer, and I was thinking I would only be writing for a desktop with a large monitor, I'd be losing a large chunk of audience, especially since 20% of millennials don't have a desktop computer. My nephew is 22 years old. He's a senior in University of Delaware, and I remember when we celebrated his high school graduation 3.5, 4 years ago, he got some cash gifts, and I remember asking him, are you going to buy a new laptop and take it to school? And he kind of sulked. He said, yeah, I have to. The school wants me to. And he sounded as if he didn't want to do it. So he was really more in the mindset of using his phone. In the end, he did buy the laptop, and he does use it regularly, but there was that mindset kicking in. So depending on your audience, the younger they are, not even if they're 37, they could still be 38 to maybe 60, more and more using smart devices, smaller devices. Now, about website content, and this really can be extended to any sort of online content. You want to be descriptive, but not too wordy. I do work with my clients on building websites, although I don't write content myself. I do ask them to. But I every once in a while come across a client who just writes gobs and gobs of information. And I understand it's all personal and they're trying to tell it all. But it's hard to put too much information on a website because most people don't have the attention span to read a lot. But you certainly want it to be very descriptive. Or sometimes if you have too much or a lot, you can actually have additional web pages so each individual page doesn't look too cluttered. But this is the key. You want to identify keywords and phrases that people would typically use to search for someone like you, or to search for the genre that you write in. And these are keywords that are more or less common. And what they would be using. I was at a writers conference a couple of years ago doing a version of this presentation, and someone asked a question about it. We dug into it. And I asked him to give me examples of the words he felt were important. Well, the words he started giving me were the characters in his book. And I didn't recognize the name. And I said, are these well-known people? And he said, well, no, these are the characters in my book. He wrote a novel. He actually wrote a novelized version of a nonfiction, otherwise a nonfiction event. So I said, I don't think you should use this. People aren't going to. But he was very adamant that it was very important that as he promotes his book, he wants the characters to be known. I got that, but really, I tried to explain to him, people aren't searching for your characters if they're not famous people. So don't emphasize what people aren't going to search for. If he was writing about something historical, about someone of history, then that may be more relevant. So it's really got to be the ones people are using. Always add images, video, things that'll, other things like that that'll grab interest. Human beings, we are visual animals, so we do like those, so that helps support the content that you're writing. You certainly want to have links to other websites, or maybe from one page to another page. Google calls this relevancy. So you may not yet be well known in your genre or area of interest. There may be other websites and other authors that are very popular. And so you may, from within your website, put references by links, website addresses to those other websites. And Google begins to get its aha moment of understanding the connection between what you're writing about and somebody it already knows. And Bing works very similarly. And across your web pages, you kind of want to have a consistent story. And I don't mean really a written story, but a theme or a narrative. And there must be consistency. And then on your social media sites where you're promoting content as well, this becomes very important because Google will eventually connect those sites where you're active to your website. And you want the message and the theme to be very similar across all. And Google, again, will have its aha moment, and it will be what's relevant. And it wants to find the search terms that are relevant to your content. Okay. Also, we like to put on websites, I certainly urge people to put what's called a call to action. A call to action is something to further engage the participant on the website. And you can do this on your social media pages as well. It might be sign up for our newsletter or free shipping when you buy from me or anything like that. You want to engage people. If you're going to use something like on the lower left, where someone is giving an email address in exchange for the information that you're providing them, keep that email address. Find a way to keep it, not hard to do, because later you can start doing email marketing to all these new email contacts that you have. We're not going to go into email marketing to great extent in this presentation. We can talk more about it, if you have a specific question, or we can talk offline. But it really adds to the effectiveness and increases the effectiveness of your message by having a call to action. It's engaging the viewer. E-commerce. E-commerce is certainly a place it's used for selling. E-commerce is really just that. It's the buying and selling of products or services through electronic sales channels, such as using the internet. It could be your website, or it could be specific websites. It's also known as online shopping. And with us kind of sheltering in place right now, some of us may be doing more online shopping than we've had in the past, because it's just not advisable to go out as often as we used to. But what's nice about promoting and buying goods online and services online, there's no barrier of time or distance. People can do shopping in the middle of the night. People can do shopping across the country or around the world. And so if you want to be involved with e-commerce at all and being to promote yourself through e-commerce, and website like Amazon could be that certainly, a great way to get some attention. There are different e-commerce tools out there. We'll touch on a couple of them. Excuse me. eBay. A lot of people know eBay as the online auction site. As a matter of fact, that's how they started. They were primarily an auction. I've used eBay for years. But it's been more and more moved to really a traditional e-commerce site where you could just buy it right now. Sometimes the people that promote will promote bid or buy it now. So you can bid it up or you can buy at a price that's set. So eBay is certainly one place where you can begin to promote and sell merchandise, specifically your books, if you want to. Amazon is the #1 e-commerce website or e-tailer, and Amazon has over 1 million independent sales organizations that are not Amazon. Amazon does get a percentage of the sale, but you're using their platform to create and promote your products. This is one, it's actually one I bought a while ago. I bought this outdoor floor mat outside my back door. And so you can see circled in red with the arrow by this company called Matt's Factory. And so I did not buy it from Amazon directly, but Amazon was the website that Matt's Factory used. You do have to be prepared. Amazon tends to take a fairly high percentage. The flip side is you don't have a retail store, so you don't have to cover that expense. And you may have to manage the inventory on your own, or you can actually work it out that Amazon will manage and the inventory and do the fulfillment. You can do it on your own website. This is a client of mine, Fitzgerald Life Coaching. Actually, I mentioned that I have a life coaching client, and she is selling her sessions and pay for it right on her website. And so she's got a couple of different programs that are available, and you can certainly do that as well. There are also e-commerce platforms, and it's not as complicated as it sounds. What they're basically are these companies that are web platforms, but their specialty is e-commerce. So you may have heard of websites built on WordPress or Weebly or Wix or the others that are out there. Those are web platforms. Shopify, BigCommerce, Volution, these are all web platforms too, but they give all the tools built in for e-commerce. And e-commerce may be, if you were selling a shirt in different sizes and colors, it's all built in to set that up nicely. So if you have the opportunity or to consider using e-commerce, these may be some of the tools you would consider as well. Through my practice, I use Shopify through a partner. We find that to be very easy and effective. Okay. And some best practices for e-commerce. Well, you want to make a good first impression. I know this guy's making a good first impression, but certainly you want to have good text, good copy, good images. You want your pages to look well. They also need to display well on mobile devices. A lot of times when you work with the e-commerce web platforms or the e-commerce plugins on the non-e-commerce platforms, they do a good job of that for you. If you build the site on your own, you just have to be attentive to that. And you also want to have a place where you can gather and show customer reviews, because that becomes like salesman for you. And if you think about if you use any online platforms for buying and there's a choice of products to choose from, you might want to look at some of the customer reviews before you actually make a purchase. So you want to have that available to you as well. It also should be very easy to make a purchase. I like that you could show all the prices up front. If you're going to have free shipping or special deals, buy 2 for free shipping, just put it right out there and make checkout an easy process. Amazon is pretty good at that. They have a button that says buy it now. They also have another button that puts it in the shopping cart. The shopping cart allows you to keep shopping. The buy it now just takes you to the shopping cart and you're ready to put in your credit card information and check out faster. One site that I don't like sometimes, Best Buy, although I have shopped at Best Buy and they do offer nice services, but sometimes what they do is they say you have to put it in the shopping cart in order to see the price. So they're kind of trying to get you halfway there. I don't like that. I like the idea of just let them know what the price is, and I'll make the decision if I want to put it in the cart or not. That's myself. And you also have to be prepared to fulfill your orders. If you've got a carton of books at home and you're going to sell these, do make sure that you have a means to mail them fairly quickly. Fortunately, individual books you could probably put in a padded envelope, and that would be fine. Of course, if you're going to use e-commerce for other selling other products, you may want to make sure you can sell it easily. A lot of times you could also work with the e-commerce web platforms. They can do the fulfillment for you, and they'll do so for a fee. And while you're giving up a little bit of profit, you're also making it a lot easier for you to do the work. So about your website and other social media, you also want to make sure that you put social media buttons with the links to your social media pages and sites so visitors can connect with you. So on your website, if you have the Facebook page, if you have a LinkedIn page, if you have YouTube videos, Twitter, put those buttons, put those links right on your website. If you're posting on social media sites, put your website, put some of the other social media sites. Begin to show that you are active on these other sites, that you're prolific. And also Google likes to see that, because Google, when it reads your website, it also reads and sees the links, and it sees that you're more robust than a single site. Also, if you have the opportunity, do make sure you put places so people can easily share your content and share with others, or maybe they can like your content. Liking and sharing is very common on the social media platforms. Sometimes you can turn them off and turn them on. Turn them on. Give people an opportunity to like, and then others to see just how much people have shared or forwarded the content. So this becomes very powerful to promote and show the value of just what it is you are doing. So this is kind of the $64,000 question. Which social media platform is best for you? Now, it's kind of funny. I remember I like the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you've ever read that. And at one point, they build a supercomputer called Deep Thought. And they ask Deep Thought to solve the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. And Deep Thought took many years to come up with the answer. And the answer was 42. That was the ultimate answer. Of course, Deep Thought then said you didn't quite define what the question is, the details of the question. So which social media platform is best for you? It depends. So even Deep Thought may not have the answer. Now, what I can tell you, especially when you get started, you can't be on every social media platform. When you're new to using social media or promoting on your website or other places, it takes a little while to get more comfortable with it. So you can't be on every platform at once. So what you should do is find the platform that is most relevant to your audience. You might do a little bit of research. You certainly know what your field is and your genre is and your interests are. So search as if you were searching for someone like you. And so what is your genre? See what you can find when you do searches. And then you want to find where your audience is. Also, look for your competition. There may be authors that write similarly to you, or there may be salespeople and product vendors that sell things similar to you. See where those people are promoting, because the likelihood is they've already figured out, if they've been doing this for a while, where the potential audience is. You want to be where they are. And every once in a while, when I give this presentation, someone will raise their hand and say, absolutely not. I want to be standing aside from them. I don't want to be where they are. No, you want to be found where they are because your audience is looking a certain way, and you want to be one of the top selections when your audience is looking. So find out where your competition is. And then you'll have to experiment with it. You have to see what's working. You might try a certain platform. You might try certain keywords. You'll see how people are finding you. We're going to talk about analytics a little later, which is how you can measure and adjust this. And what works, you'll stick with it, and what doesn't work, you'll adjust it to make it a little bit better. Becomes very important. So what to do next? Just pick one tool. This is like that joke, how do you eat the 1,000-pound elephant? And of course, the answer is one bite at a time. So social media, getting involved online, being more prolific needs to be, or is going to be, a bit more challenging to get started. It could be complex, it could be scary, just pick one tool. Find out that one tool where your audience and your competition is. Start to use that one. Sign up and create an account. A lot of these services, the accounts are completely free, or they give you robust free accounts, and then they have other features you can pay for later. And then get some how-to assistance. There are webinars that you can find. Ask others what they're using and how they're using it and their tips and tricks. There may be classes, both online and in person. Find a consultant or someone else who just knows that area very well and engage with them. So get the how-to assistance you need to be as effective as you can be. And then get started with that one, and that will allow you and enable you to move forward. Okay, so I thought this might be another good intermission time. How you guys doing? You're awake? You're still online. That's good. Okay. Questions? Any questions so far? Let's see. Is there anything in the chat? Nope. No questions specifically.
What about hashtags? What are they?
Okay. Several of the social media sites do use hashtags. Twitter is known for them. Facebook has the equivalent. LinkedIn uses them as well. Hashtags they're not exclusive. By that I mean nobody owns a hashtag, no one buys a hashtag for a special use. But in a word, like you see on the screen, is the word intermission. And if your genre was talking about intermission, if intermission was important, when you write content, before the word, you actually put the hashtag or the pound sign. And that pound sign is the hashtag. So it would be pound intermission. And it becomes a word that then becomes searchable on that platform. Hashtags are used in Twitter. So if you want to find posts that are about, like the Me Too movement had a hashtag. People that are protesting, people that have things of interest. And of course, with using this intermission, you might use intermission for a completely different reason than somebody else does. So you don't own it. You own your web address, so technically you rent it. That's exclusive to you. But hashtag is more of a way of identifying a keyword and making it searchable. Was that clear?
I think so. How does it help you promote something? Does it help at all?
So let's say you were on Twitter and you were posting once a week and you were talking about jazz and trumpet, using your husband's instrument, because you mentioned that. So he might write a post or a tweet, tweets what the post is on Twitter, and he might be writing something like, I will be playing trumpet with a band at Salt Creek Grill on May 1st. And you might put a hashtag in front of the word jazz and hashtag in front of the word trumpet, and someone else may be curious about things related to trumpet or things related to jazz. And then if they're searching for the hashtag, your tweet, your message, your post can come up, can be found potentially more easily.
And does it run out of time, or is it just there forever?
It's on each post forever.
Okay.
Now, if someone chooses, or if the world decides no longer to use that hashtag, it just may never get searched, but you're typing it, it's part of your written content. I would not do that in a website. There's no need to do it there. There's different ways of getting noticed and improve your search engine optimization. But for tweets, for posts in some of the social media sites that support it, absolutely doing it. It would do it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not put in the middle or the end. It's just put right at the beginning. Hashtag jazz. And if you want to make jazz trumpet, it has to be no spaces. So it could be hashtag jazz trumpet as one word.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. Anything else during this intermission?
I have a question about images.
Sure.
If you have an image that you own that is unique, such as a photograph or a painting that relates to something in your book, and you're thinking of putting it on your website or other social media, I had been given advice by an attorney that once you do that, you never know where it's going and what people are doing with it, and you have limited legal recourse if someone, turns it into a tote bag that they sell or something. What's your advice? Because I know sometimes legal advice can be overly cautious, and I don't know what are people actually doing in cases like that?
So my first bit of advice is I would defer to what the attorney is telling you, because he or she would know the trademark and the copyright and all that better than I would. But I would think if it's very important, relevant, that you don't want a certain picture to be used for somebody else's benefit, you might need to go down the path of copywriting and trademarking. You may also need to put some sort of content or privacy statement somewhere on the website that warns people you can't use my content for free. The flip side is when you're finding pictures on the internet, wherever that may be, you can easily get them off of a website. I'd be very cautious about putting that in your book or on your website without getting their permission.
Right.
And there are actually people, photographers, and they will put their content out there just as kind of like bait. And then they have means of then finding if that content is being used illegally, and then they turn around and sue you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that happens when you download an image, you're not only downloading the picture, but you're downloading a lot of other data that could be put there. You might remember the days when you had printed photographs and you came back from the Photoshop and you had, your 24 or 36 prints. You wrote something on the back, mom's birthday, 1995, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you wrote that on the back and you put it in a photo album. There's a digital equivalent to that where you could put information on the image. So when you're on somebody's website and you find a nice image and you download it, you're actually downloading that content as well.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are kind of putting it out there as like a worm on a hook, they're then scouring, they've got tools, they're scouring the internet looking for the writing on the back of the picture, the digital equivalent. And then when they find it on your website, they'll use your Contact Us page to say, pay me money for putting it on or I'm suing you.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, I actually lost business. I had a client that I lost the opportunity for business, not for something that I did, but a client had a certain IT budget. They were in the home health aid industry. So if you needed a nurse or an aide to come to with chores or whatever, and they wanted to hire me to do some work on the website, and it was a not insignificant amount of money, not that it was a lot of money. And just as I sent her my proposal, which had the pricing, she sent me a letter back. What do you think of this? And it was an email she received from someone who claimed that on her business website was an image that she took inappropriately. And I did a little research, and what I found was her husband did find this image, a nice place. He downloaded it, put it on their website. And as I did the research, I found that's what this guy does. He puts pictures out there. He works as one attorney. And when he finds the pictures, he sues them. And he said, pay me $5,000 or I'm suing you. I did refer her to a business attorney we both knew. And the business attorney said, well, if you want me to defend you, it's going to wind up probably costing more than $5,000. You seem to have done something inappropriate. You may just have to pay this person. So it can be an expensive proposition. Now, what I can tell you, there are ways to kind of whitewash the back of the photograph, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it because I don't want to get you in trouble. But clearly what this guy did, he wasn't careful. And so that made it harder. So, but yeah, you may go down the path of if it's an image that's somehow tied specifically to your brand and about you, but not just a nice picture like I've got a picture of an egg sandwich over there, bagels. I don't care if someone steals that. and actually I did a little bit of whitewashing. It's not likely that someone will find this online. But, you know, more innocuous images, don't worry about. But if it's really something related to your brand, you may want to protect it and talk with your attorney.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that's the long answer to the long answer. Sorry about that. But I'm not an attorney. I'm not a tax accountant. I'm not an insurance salesman. I do a presentation on how to form your own business and work as a consultant, and I say that all the time, consult with the professionals, and this is another example of that. Sure, good question. Anything else before we move on to the last portion of the presentation? Okay, so let's do that, and the intermission curtain will open again. So we've really gone through most of the social media portion of this presentation already. And early on, when I started this program, this presentation, I started at a writers' conference. People asked me sets of questions, and I decided to put them right into the presentation in case it was important. One is called search engine optimization, and the other is analytics, which is basically how do you keep track of the performance of your website and social media and all that. So what I can tell you is these are both very big topics, just as social media is, but I want to kind of introduce it to you if you're not quite familiar with it, so that at least when you're ready to undertake it, you've got at least a starting foundation of the information that may be helpful to you. So search engine optimization. A lot of people think that when you build your website, that when you write on social media, when you publish that first post and that first page, you put it out there. If you build it, they will come. You may remember the movie Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, he will come. I had a client who is a retired judge and attorney, and now that he was retired, he just wanted to do some legal consulting, but not be a lawyer. And I built the website for him, and I called him up, and I congratulated him. It's now online. He said, when are the phone calls coming? It was 10 minutes old. The phone calls weren't going to come right away, and that's not what happens. Google doesn't always know right away that your website is there. It takes a while. There are a couple things that you need to do to get Google's attention. So it's not the case that just because you build it, they come right away. It's an organic process. It happens over time. So what search engine optimization really is, it's the process of gaining visibility of your website in search engine results. So the search engine is Google, Bing, Yahoo, those places. And Google gets about 80% of the traffic. So you really just, when you do search engine optimization, really focus on Google. So that when someone puts in a search term, that your result, in the results could be your website, your social media, other things that are about you. So it tends to be a little bit organic, and by that, it happens slowly. Now, we're not going to talk about Google ads, just so we don't have time in this program, but if you paid for a Google ad, a pay-per-click, that's not organic. It comes up right away. Once you publish the ad, it will come up with a matching term. But search engine optimization, it takes a little while before you start driving traffic to your website. Now, there are two primary components of search engine optimization. One is called on-page SEO, and the other is called off-page SEO. So just keep these in mind, and we'll touch on them in just a moment. But before you can really understand more about SEO, or search engine optimization, I thought I would talk a little bit about how do search engines really work. You're all familiar with Google, I'm sure, or the other search engines, and there's a box where you can put some sort of keyword. You might be looking for plumber in Princeton. That might be what you're looking for. And there's actually a misconception. The way the search engines don't work is as soon as you press the enter key, it immediately searches every website in the world to try and figure out which ones are the best ones that match your search term. And that's not what happens. Google doesn't look at every website right now and every web server throughout the world, or it's not going to know just to look at the one in Princeton. And that actually doesn't work because a Princeton business may have a web server that's across the country, but it's a Princeton business. So Google and the other search engines don't work that way. They don't search every website to find the answers. What they really do is they search their own database. But before they do that, night and day, Google and the other search engines have these other programs that are running all day long, and they're really dumb programs. They're called bots, short for robot. Sometimes they're called web crawlers because they crawl the World Wide Web, or they're called spiders because spiders crawl the World Wide Web. And they just run night and day, all day long, looking for stuff. They're not looking for anything in particular. They're just looking for stuff, kind of like a squirrel that's just looking. And then when it finds stuff, it electronically sends it back to Google's database. And there it could sit for a while. And then in the database, Google starts comparing the stuff against all the other stuff and begins to develop an understanding of what the stuff it's finding relates to in context to the other stuff, and then builds a relevancy pattern of what all this stuff really means. When you do a Google search, what you're doing is you're searching their database and getting back the results of what Google has already made sense of that relates to the search term. And that's why you can return fairly quickly. Their internal search algorithms are much faster than trying to do external searches. So Google searches its database. And what search engine optimization tries to do is to allow the search engines to make and find more of the stuff related to you and make a relevancy and decision about the relationship among the different places that you post to each other where you post. It's all about your content. So it's very important that you spend time putting content, not necessarily volume, the quantity, but the quality. And it's all going to be about the content's very specific to let your audience know, to let Google know what you're all about. So you're going to use keywords. That's what they call them, key phrases, things that you're going to put in a repetitive sense. Now, it's not going to be putting it 100 times, you know, jazz music, jazz music, jazz music. Google actually doesn't like word stuffing, but it likes to see a relationship of what you're talking about that, and a relevancy. So it technically forms a bit of a story, a consistent story. So these keywords are important. Okay. Now that you have them, you want to start posting them either on your website or on your social media pages or wherever else you're publishing content. And that's what's called on-page SEO, on-page search engine optimization. It basically means the stuff that's on your web page, on your social media, where you have the control and the ability to make the changes on your own. And if you can't technically do it on your own, you might hire someone, but it's all within your control. So what you're writing about should be optimized with those keywords. And if you're going to be a local business, you're going to want to put geographic information as well. So if you're primarily staying local to New Jersey, you might want to do that. But you're going to want to find those keywords. Then internal to the website, there are lots of other hidden places. Now, the typical user of the website isn't going to be able to see this, but Google reads the inside and the visual content of the website. So one is called a page title, and it's actually a special tag or coded piece of code. These website tools typically allow you to put this information in. You just have to know to put it there. So I might put in technology services, especially on the page that's about my technology services. So you'll want to find these hidden places. You'll also want to make sure that your website address is relevant. So I'm actually working with one client now, and he has a web address. He's a woodworker, custom woodwork, makes some beautiful stuff. That's the name of his website. But then all of his other web pages were called page 1, page 2, and page 3. So I asked him, what does page 1 mean? And he said, well, if you go to page 1, you can see we're talking about bedroom furniture. And I said, I know. But when you read this, page 1, what does it mean? And he said, well, I guess nothing. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to rename all the web addresses of his web pages. It's not hard to do, at least not with these tools that you have out there. So it's very important that you use the proper page names. Google likes to read the page names. Most of us don't look at them and don't give them a second thought, but Google reads them. Then there are other hidden places where you can keep information. They're called meta tags or meta descriptions. Meta basically means it's data about the data. So if they don't appear on the website, they appear within the pages, hidden kind of like behind the scenes, but Google finds them and uses this. It tells the search engines more about what the web page and the website is about. So you certainly want to put them in. A lot of these web tools that you have, some of the social media sites do have places to put what's called SEO. They have SEO sections, and you can code for them and put that information in easily without being a programmer. You just have to know to do it. And then these are called alt tags, or they're usually put on images. These are kind of what we were talking about a moment ago about the pictures with the writing on the back. This is the digital place where you put more information. And it doesn't have to be a narrative, and it doesn't even have to be grammatically correct, because most people won't see it. But it does have to be relevant. The wording and the phrasing has to be relevant to what you're writing about on your website and your search engine, on your social media pages. So there's a lot of things that you can do that are very relevant. And then so in contrast to on-page SEO, there's off-page SEO. And that's really the stuff that's not on your website, but it's on other websites, or what other people are contributing to other websites. So it might be a link on another website that links back to your website. Or if somebody writes that they've just read your book and they left a review. So it kind of gives your website and your content and your writing and your book more credibility. It also gives you a little bit of an indication. It really gives Google an indication how the world perceives you. So it helps with that relevancy again. Google likes when other people talk about you. It's kind of like a testimonial. So what's most important for relevancy in those cases are what's called link building. Now you can actually do at least half of this on your own social media and your own website. You can put on your web pages and your social media pages links to others. They could be other authors that you like, or venues where you perform, or events that you're going to attend, or conferences that you think are relevant. So you're not really sending people necessarily to your competition, but you're linking to other things that very much relate to what you write about. And you can put those on your own content. Google likes that. The flip side, if you can get others to put a link from their website to yours, that's very strong and very powerful. So you would have to reach out to the people that have been a part of your book process. Maybe your publishing consultant has a list of his clients or her clients and links to those people's websites on his or her website. There's cross-referencing they're putting on their own. If you're buying, as a musician, maybe you're buying a certain music, and you can see if they'll publish your information because you're promoting their information. So it's tit for tat, works out very well. Certainly between your website and your social media pages, great ways to put cross-linking as well. So ways to improve your search engine optimization, ways to improve the opportunity to be found online. Well, start with the on-page SEO, because that's your website, that's your social media page, that's what you're in control of. You can just log onto your web account or social media account and update the content whenever you see it's appropriate. Off-page does take a little bit of time because you're really counting on others to want to do that for you. So promoting on social media and blog sites is a great way because you've got a little bit of control over that, certainly. And you can also ask other people, hey, you put my site up, I'll put your site up as a link. And it helps both of us. Why not? Ask them. And across your social media platforms. Again, remember that spoken hub that we started with. You want your social media sites to reference back to your web page and your other social media sites. You do want your web page to reference your social media sites. You could be writing specific content on your website and it will point to a specific social media site. So you may be very targeted. But as long as you start building up your own little web, not a worldwide web, but your own web, it goes a long way for developing relevancy for Google. Find places to submit articles or online magazines. Find some place that will publish some of your content as well. And then they'll put references hopefully to you and your name as the published author and to your website as well. Great ways to help with off-page SEO. Okay. And I know we breezed through it. And with my clients, it's usually a couple of sessions that we work through. But again, I just wanted to introduce that to you. And then also wanted to introduce to you analytics, because when I've done this program without having this as a topic, I do periodically get questions. And I believe this is the last topic for this evening. But let's talk about analytics. It's really a way to monitor the ongoing performance of your website or your posts on social media. And then if you're not quite achieving your goals, you can tweak it and make the changes as you need. You may remember that social media strategy diagram that we had up earlier, the circular path. So sometimes that's what happens. You do monitoring and you come up with a thought that if I make a certain change, it may make an improvement in my visibility. You want to be able to measure the results of the performance of your social media programs and your website. You want to see what works, whether it's applying keywords or the way you're promoting. You may make changes. The social media analytics sites can't tell you what to do, but they can give you information about the look back results, and you can make better and more informed decisions on the things that you may want to try. And when you start seeing things that work, you can focus your time on those things that are working well, and you could be more productive that way. So it begins to give you information. And begin to ask yourself, am I achieving those social media goals? Am I getting the audience that I want to get? Are people seeing my website? Are they coming to my posts? So for using analytics, Google Analytics, for websites, this is the tool you want to use. It is completely free. You just need a Google account or a Gmail account. And it shows you everything that you want to know about visitors to your website. What page are they coming to? How long are they staying on different pages? How many visitors are coming to the site but bouncing off right away? And where are they coming from? You'll actually see right down to the zip code where your users are situated. You won't see the individuals. Google will never expose the individual names, but you may see, oh, gee, there were 50 people from Princeton, and there were 40 people from Princeton Junction, and there were 10 people from Lawrenceville, and then why were there 5 people from India? I have no idea. It's just kind of funny how you see some of this. Maybe those are hackers trying to learn more. So you get to see that kind of information. How many page views? How many page views are unique and how many are repetitive? Repetitive gives you the understanding that people are coming back to your website. Unique says they're being found. How are they being found? Are they coming to me from a Google search? Are they referred to me from other websites? And so some of that becomes very important. And you get to see if they're coming from your social media site at a fairly high rate, then your social media is being very effective at directing readers to your website and vice versa. On the social media sites, there's what they call engagement. How many people have clicked? How many likes? How many follows? How many people are commenting? All sorts of information like that. They won't quite go into the details that Google Analytics will, but they give you terrific information about what your performance is. And almost all the social media platforms give you this type of thing. And then what's called impressions. How many are even seeing my content and my promotions? You get to find out that as well. And that becomes very important. So if you're going to try advertising, you might try an advertising campaign with certain keywords. You might do that for a few weeks or a few months, see what the results are, change it, and see if that's better or worse. And then you might get a sense of what works well. You decide what to do with the information. Google, the social media sites won't tell you, I suggest you do this. Google may suggest you use Google Ads because they make money off it. Social media sites may suggest that you boost some of your posts so they could show up higher in rankings. But beyond that, they won't tell you anything more specific. Okay? But it gives you the ability to adjust your content to get working, to focus on what's working and get to use that even more effectively. Good. So social media, again, using the internet to share information among people. That's just what it is. You want to share information, and you want information to be available to you. It includes your website, e-commerce, social media platforms, blogging, email marketing we didn't talk about. There's lots of things. If you go back to that spoken hub diagram, you'll see lots of ways and lots of places that covers social media and being online. You do want to monitor and tweak the performance of your campaigns and your sites to see that you're as effective and your programs are as effective as they can be for you. But really, this is that 1,000-pound elephant. Start with that one bite. So if you're fairly new to social media or you haven't been quite as effective in using it, just focus on one. Because if you look at social media as the 1,000-pound elephant, as this big kind of blob, it's just overwhelming to think about. But think about the one, focus on the one that you're comfortable with, maybe the site your audience uses well, places where your competition will be, the one that a friend recommends and can help you with. Start with that, get comfortable. Once you're comfortable with it, now you know a lot of the content, take that and move it on to other sites and other social media platforms as well. Okay, so then I'll just say have a good night. Thank you very much for participating. It's been my pleasure to help you through with this, and you're welcome to contact me. Otherwise, lots of good luck and have a good night, everybody.